All right, you guys. I want to start off by saying welcome on behalf of the Shelby Area Chamber of Commerce. That everybody came out for the 2022 Toole County Candidates Forum. We'd like to welcome all of our candidates. We do have some of our unopposed candidates here as well to speak this evening. And then last but not least, I'd love to introduce our moderator for the evening, Mark Daniels, one and only from KSEN, KZIN. So thank you guys again, and I'm going to hand it over to Mark so he can get things started. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Nope.
Can you?
Oh, you turned it off.
Can you hear me? She says one and only, you know, that could mean a lot of different things. Kind of weird, Lord, sort of thing, yeah, so. Anyway, it's good to be here. It's good to see everybody tonight, and I think we'll learn a lot about the candidates. So I love candidates that step up and yeah, put their name in the ring and you know, take a chance, even when you have a bit of a race there. So could be very interesting, and it's good to see everybody here. Before we begin, we'd like to start by introducing our unopposed candidates and allow them to introduce themselves. And no.
Dan says he's good, but I'll read Donna's word.
Okay, Dan, I guess, well, we'll just say that Dan Whitted has applied for coroner once again. He's been our coroner in Toole County for some time, does a great job. So most of you know Dan. And we have Donna Witt, who is now, who's been our sheriff, and she's gonna run for the Justice of the Peace Office. And Ashley's gonna tell you a little bit about her from the paper.
So Donna wasn't able to make it tonight, but because she's going into a new position, she did give me something to read on her behalf. So she said, I have had the privilege and honor to serve the people of Toole County since 1981. I was hired as a dispatcher at that time and promoted to head dispatcher in 1983. I left the sheriff's office for a short time in 1985 when I started my family. In January of 1986, I was asked to return to fill in for the secretary/civil clerk. During the time I filled that position, I applied for and was hired on as a sworn-in deputy sheriff June of 1986. I was promoted to chief deputy in 1991 and held that position until I was promoted to undersheriff in 2002. After then, Sheriff Vern Anderson retired. I was elected on January 1st, 2003 as sheriff of Toole County. I am currently serving my 5th term as sheriff and would like to thank the residents of Toole County for their trust and support throughout my law enforcement career. I'm truly grateful. With all that said, I am hoping to continue service to the people of Toole County, just in a different capacity. As Judge Rapcook had decided not to run either term, I made the decision to file for the position of Justice of the Peace. I'm excited to learn all aspects of this office. I believe each case should be decided on a case-by-case basis, and everyone has the right to be heard. The circumstances of each case are always different, so the judge must find a balance between holding a person accountable for their actions and having an understanding of their situation. Being fair, impartial, and professional are important things I believe I can bring to this office. I will work hard to continue holding your trust and protecting all of your rights. Thank you for your consideration, and do not forget to vote on June 7th. On behalf of Donna Witt, thank you guys.
Okay, and with that, we're going to get right to it here. We want to introduce you to all 3 of our Toole County Sheriff candidates. First off is Tyler Padilla, right here on the left, far seat, right here. Then Ryan Larson. Ryan's our current undersheriff, I believe, if I'm correct in saying that. And then it was interesting, I got a chance to talk with Josh for a minute outdoors, and I love it when people do this. He gave me the correct pronunciation of his name. He said that it's like you and a lock and a key. So it's Ulaki. Am I right? We got her just right there. So that's an easy way to remember it. As a nonpartisan community organization, the Shelby Area Chamber of Commerce felt it important that area residents get an opportunity to meet each of the candidates and learn more about their philosophy and ideas in regard to the positions that they're running for. As you see, there are numbers in front of each candidate. I hadn't actually looked. They have them in their pockets, okay. And the candidates chose their seats at random, and so no one candidate is at an advantage. Each candidate chosen by random drawing will have a maximum of 7 minutes to introduce themselves. That's just the beginning. And then share their philosophy and express the strengths that they would bring to the job. Timer will indicate when 20 seconds are left in order to wrap up their thoughts. And I had not looked, our timer is right there, okay. And they will, she'll give them the indication to wrap up the thoughts. After each candidate has had the opportunity to speak, 4 predetermined questions will be asked of each candidate here, again, by random drawing, and each candidate will be limited to 2 minutes to answer each question. The timer will again indicate when the 20 seconds are left in order to wrap up their thoughts on that particular question. Questions have been posed by county and city officials, law enforcement, and members of the community, and are unbiased and nonpartisan. No question will be allowed from the audience tonight. We're sorry this evening, as time would not allow for it. We ask that you respect the thoughts and ideas of each candidate, and hope that this evening will give you a great opportunity to be a more informed voter. And so let's begin. Candidates, please tell us about yourself, your thoughts and ideas in relation to the job and the strengths that you would bring to this, or excuse me, I got ahead of myself a little bit. We're first going to start with the introduction, and you got 7 minutes to do that. And I don't know that I have a number for. So seat 2 will go first there. And maybe we have the other microphone. Hopefully that's going to work. So John, there you go. All right.
All right. First, let me introduce myself as we already did. My name is Josh Ulaki. I'm a senior patrol deputy with the Sheriff's Office up here in Toole County. I want to start off by saying thanks to all my family for all their support throughout all this. I also want to say thank you to some of my supporters like Kristen Juris, who's Lieutenant Governor, Mary Miller with Toole County Alliance for Youth, and everyone else who has voiced their support. I also want to thank my fellow candidates as well for their time in all this and coming down. I also want to thank the chamber for getting all this set up for us. And lastly, I also want to thank Mark Daniels for keeping us all in line up here. A little bit about me is I'm 38 years old. Originally from Missoula. I grew up in a small town outside of there. I've been married for 12 years in July, and I have a 10-year-old daughter who I'm luckily enough is a lot smarter than I am and is actually on the honor roll in the school. I've been with Toole County since June of 2019. I'm currently one of the school resource officers, field training officer, a senior patrol deputy, and also the jail commander. Like I said, I was born and raised in a small town outside of Missoula. Prior to my time coming up here, that I started my law enforcement career with the Missoula County Sheriff's Office as a cadet. The cadet program down there is a program that's affiliated with the Boy Scouts of America, but it's not specific to just boys or girls. And it gives high school age students an introduction to law enforcement and actually teaches them the beginning steps to what it's like to work in law enforcement. After that, I joined the military as a security forces member of the United States Air Force. I served 2 deployments to Iraq there and received various medals for service, as well as being a distinguished graduate, graduating the Security Forces Academy. Currently a member of the American Legion. Part of my other training when I got out of the military is I worked for a security company that contracted with the Department of Homeland Security and safeguarded and protected federal buildings and federal employees as well. Some of the different community involvements that I've had prior to coming up here was with the law enforcement torch run through the Special Olympics and the polar plunge there again, also with the Special Olympics. Some of my current community involvement is that I volunteer at the Prairie Oasis here in town. Also part of a group where we're bringing some students together with our senior citizens and trying to bridge some of the gap, and we don't want to lose any of the history that some of our senior citizens have actually lived through. Fostered a number of animals that have been in need and spent some time as well donating at the food bank to help some people out. Some of the things that I'd like to work on or bring to the Sheriff's Office would be, I believe, in protecting the rights of the citizens of Toole County and following the Constitution. I also believe that everyone should be treated equally and with dignity and respect. One of the things that through my time as the SRO here, I've talked with some of the faculty and teachers at the schools and believe that having a full-time school resource officer would be a great benefit to not only the schools, but also to the citizens of Toole County as well. Just like my experience of growing up in the cadet program in Missoula County, that's something that some of the students at the schools have actually approached me about and how that they could start their careers into law enforcement. One of the things that I would like to bring is to start up a cadet program that would actually be able to give an avenue to kids to not only have something extra to do that they've asked about, but also something that furthers their interest. Would also be a good challenge for officers as well and be able to bring them closer into the community. Something that I've reached out to some other sheriffs about that they do is a Citizens Academy. There again, I believe in working with the community and having more open and transparent relations with members of the community. And I think this would also help bridge that gap in being able to have people come in and actually be a part of the sheriff's office and learn how and why we do the things that we do. Like I said, that I was involved with different Special Olympics events, and that's something else I'd like to bring to the sheriff's office. It's my understanding that previously that we had been involved at least some point in time with the Special Olympics. And there again, I believe that that would be a very good community involvement within the sheriff's department. A lot of our deputies have very specialized training and everybody comes from a different background and has different strengths and experiences. And I believe in sending deputies to specialized training to be able to enhance their abilities, to be able to go ahead and assist the citizens of Toole County to be able to give them the best service that we can. A lot of my upbringing and training has been in community policing and believe that to be something that we should have more an active role in within our agency. One other thing that I would like to also bring in, and I've only talked with just a few sheriffs about this, is the Shop with a Cop. It opens up the door for bringing a positive effect with some of the people that might be disadvantaged in our community, and be able to show them a brighter side of our law enforcement. So I ran through my spiel real fast. I actually stuck to it pretty good, but I'll be here after the event. If anybody has any specific questions that they'd like to talk to me about, I'll be more than happy to stick around and talk to me. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming down and thank my fellow candidates.
We did have the numbers there, and thank you, Josh, very much. Our next candidate is Tyler Padilla, as drew seat number 3, and he'll have 7 minutes to again give us his philosophies, his background, and whatever else he would like. Tyler?
All right, good evening, everybody. Like Mark said, my name is Tyler Padilla. I'm currently the Chief Deputy with the Sheriff's Office. I'll go start from the beginning. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and when I was 3, moved to Yuma, Arizona. Like I said, I lived in Yuma, but I was brought up on a ranch just outside of Wickenburg with my grandparents. My parents are Ernie and Vicky Padilla, and I have a little brother. His name's Austin. In 2007, I moved to Montana due to my dad's job with the U.S. Border Patrol and grew up in Conrad. Throughout my time in Conrad, I was involved in numerous sports through high school and helped a lot of family friends with ranching and farming, involvement with agriculture side of the community. I graduated Conrad High School in 2014 and attended the University of Montana from 2014 to 2017. In the 3 years, I graduated with bachelor's degrees in psychology and sociology and a certificate, kind of like a minor in forensic science. Throughout my college career, I worked with Missoula Police Department, the University of Montana Police Department, and the Missoula Correction and Sobriety and Accountability Program. Through the Missoula Police Department, I started off as a volunteer and basically went around with other volunteers. We collected bikes throughout the community, cleaned up graffiti, and cleaned up a lot of the trails and parks that Missoula had to offer. Within 6 months of being there, I was kind of promoted, I guess, in a volunteer way to work with the Missoula HIDTA Task Force, which stands for the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area. So I did a lot of stuff with multiple agencies that work with the police department. At the university, I worked for the special events team. We provided security for football games, basketball games, and concerts that they held within the auditoriums. And also was a part of the new thing that they launched, it's called Grizz Walk, where we provided services for students to have rides across campus if it was dark or they were alone, didn't want to walk across campus by themselves. At the Missoula Sobriety and Accountability Program, I basically oversaw people that were going through addiction programs and that were told or ordered by the judge to be a part of this program in order to stay sober. In 2018, in February of 18, I applied with the Toole County Sheriff's Office and began my career serving Toole County community. In 2019, I was promoted to Senior Deputy and Field Training Officer. And in 2020, I was promoted to the Chief Deputy after partaking in an interview board. I was chosen after that board, and in 2021, I was granted permission from the current sheriff to be a part of the, basically be a task force officer with the FBI, Big Sky Safe Trails Task Force. We investigate a lot of violent crime and drug investigations from Toole County to the surrounding counties that definitely have the ability to bring the dangerous drugs and violent crime into our county. I believe that I was given permission to do so based off of my time of being in Toole County from 2018 till current. I've had 11 convicted cases within the county for criminal possession of dangerous drugs. So that's kind of a big thing that I focus on in my career here, is taking care of the drug problem that we currently have. Some of the philosophy sections that I have are that I talk about are serving for the citizens. And whenever I say serving for the citizens, what comes to mind is being more transparent as the sheriff, if elected, and from the sheriff's office through social media and having more media releases, basically letting the public know exactly what's going on, what kind of cases we're investigating, and stuff like that, to where we can answer more questions. Working with the community, I've learned that in a community this size, it's a lot better to work with the community, listen to their concerns, and we can police in a better function than just trying to, I guess, than just trying to police without knowing exactly what the community sees that we don't see. I believe in working hard and supporting and standing up for Toole County residents. And by this, I mean protecting our Montana constitutional rights. An example of how you can do this as sheriff, if elected, is being a part of Montana Sheriff and Peace Officers Association and understanding that you can have a voice and opinion whenever it comes to legislative ideas. Example of that is House Bill 258, which protects our Second Amendment right as Montanans and U.S. citizens, basically prohibiting the enforcement for any state agency to enforce federal bans on firearms, magazines, ammo components, and accessories. With this bill, it excludes anyone that is convicted with felony charges that might have something to do with firearms or a violent act. Another idea that I stand behind as a candidate for sheriff is authentic law enforcement. And whenever I talk about this, what comes to mind is being straightforward, being able to give knowledgeable answers and explain why we're doing the things that we are, or why we're responding to certain calls and areas that we are doing. And if I'm unsure of the answer, I reach out. I have a lot of contacts throughout the state that I can reach out and ask questions to where I can get the answer and get it to the community. I also believe in being approachable and very interactive with the community and leading a well-trained, knowledgeable staff. My last philosophy idea behind this is professionalism, and that's just basically being able to hold myself and the staff. I thought you said 2 minutes left.
20 seconds is what you get. It's the one reminder.
Oh, well, it looks like I'm out of time. Well, there's 2 minutes. So thank you everybody for coming out and listening to all of our candidates. I want to wish these guys the best of luck and thank you guys for holding this event.
Time always flies when you're having fun, right, Travis? Okay, so our next candidate, final candidate to give his opening remarks is Ryan Larson.
I find it funny I drew number 1 and the last, so that must be a Shelby High thing. So, I reiterate what these guys said. Thanks for everything. Thanks everybody for coming out. I apologize for my hat. I was just at softball practice and I didn't have time to fix my hair, so it was either put a hat on or have you guys complain about my hair being bad, so I went with the hat. So I've been here at the sheriff's office for 22 years. I started back in 1999. Vern Anderson first hired me. I worked here till I think it was 2006, at which time I signed on with Line Corp International and went over to Iraq and trained cops in downtown Baghdad. I did that for about 6 months with the 21st MPs. Had a great time. People look at me funny when I tell them it's the easiest job I ever had and the most fun I ever had, because made it home at the end of the day. It was a good day. So after that, I came back. Donna was kind enough to give me my job back with the same badge number. I've been a deputy until I think it was 15 when I was promoted to sergeant. Tyler was the chief deputy before we went back to the chief deputy. We had 3 sergeants. I was one of the first selected to be a sergeant. I worked in that position for about 1.5 years before I became the undersheriff, and I've been doing that for the past 6 years. I don't have the cool titles that some of these guys have because I've been doing it so long, so we just did it as part of our job. We didn't have SRO officers when I started. We just came to the school and did stuff when the school asked. I do think it's a good program, and I do agree with Josh a little bit. I'd like to see it expanded. Maybe not full-time. I think the staffing is too short to have full-time, but I do see that as a good thing. It reaches out to the community, gives us a good face. And as I was talking with Mr. Crump about today at one of the meetings, it does a lot more than just the kids being able to see somebody in uniform. It leads to the parents, makes it easier for us to talk to people because we look like good people instead of a uniform. So I do think it's a good program. I think Josh has done a great job with it. Jeff Robbins is our North County one. I think he's done a great job with it. So those guys should be commended for that. I've been asked a lot about what changes I would make and stuff like that. And really, I don't have any. I think after 20 years of one sheriff, that is a big enough change for the department to go through. If you come in with too many new ideas and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this way, you can upset your employees, and that kills your work environment. So I think the best thing to do is to come in, see what employees you have, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. I have a little bit of experience with that, with seeing them over the past years. I think I've hired most everybody that's here. So you take their strengths and weaknesses after you see them. The other thing is it leads to a leadership quality that you show that you care about your guys and you're listening to their ideas, because sometimes the best ideas come from the people that work for you and with you. Being smart enough to understand that sometimes your ideas aren't the best. And they can come up with good ideas. You know, the SRO was an idea that was brought to us that we went with. Again, Tyler talked about the task force was an idea that was brought to us, we went with. So different things like that. I just think after 20 years of one person, if you come in great guns and I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, there's just a chance that you upset the workflow. And there'll probably be some turnover anyway with a new sheriff, because some people may not want to work for that person or whatnot. I don't think you want to hasten the departure by saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. The one thing I guess I bring to it is that experience that I can train these guys and show these guys how to do everything from the broken window to the homicide, because I've worked homicides here in Shelby. I've worked homicides in Baghdad. I worked homicide with the FBI and the task force. So I can show them those skills. And quite often I get people in my office just about daily, hey, how do I do this? What do you think I should do about that? And I can rely on my past experience as a deputy, as a sergeant, if it's a supervisory position, or as my undersheriff, if it's an administrative question about what to do with certain things like that. I think that's all I got. I'm not going to take my full 7 minutes. I give back to Tyler. Yeah, I'll ask against the Tyler.
All right, with those things covered, and each one of the candidates given a chance to give us their philosophy, their background, their experience, and some different things they'd like to see, we will move on. This will be our first question for each candidate. And again, we've done the order by random drawing. So this time it'll go 1, 2, 1. You'll be number 1 this time, Ryan, and 2 and 3 on this very first question. So here is the question. How would your peers and your colleagues describe your leadership style, right?
I think I just kind of hit that a little bit, but my leadership style is more of a hands-off thing. I think if you micromanage people too much, you end up getting them less confidence in what they're doing, and they're doing things your way. You want them to be able to blossom out and become their own officer. You give them the tools that you have and say, hey, if I had this, I would do this, this, and this, or you can do this, that, and that. Part of leadership, I think I read this quote not long ago, the difference between leadership and manipulation. In both cases, you're trying to get them to do something. Manipulation means I'm trying to get you to do something for me. Leadership means I'm trying to get you to do something for yourself or for the department as a whole. So I kind of see it that way, that you give them the tools, you stand back and let them do the project and be able to ask them questions to help them along in their career. You know, I've been fortunate enough being here long enough that I've went through a few different leadership styles. I think anybody, when they take over a position of authority, thinks that they have to be that overbearing figure and I got to tell people what to do and how to do it. And then you learn through the process that it's a lot better to let them do their job and do it the way they want to do it, and just throw in little things. Hey, make sure you think about this, make sure you think about that. The one thing I can throw out is recently I had a deputy come to me and say, I have to do this interview. What should I do with it? I said, do X, Y, and Z. And he did those things and he came back and you would have thought he won the Super Bowl because he was so excited it worked out the way I told him it was going to work out. And he was able to get a confession. So I think that's the best way to deal with leadership.
Cool. And Josh, Milwaukee, and the same question, how would your peers and colleagues describe your leadership style?
I don't know how they would actually describe my leadership style. Through my time in the military, also my time when I was a cadet, I was a sergeant of the program, and also currently as the jail commander. I try to understand how best all of my people that are working for me, how they learn and work with each person's individual style. Everybody learns differently, everybody asks different questions. As far as we're trying to lead them, when they would come to me with a question, I would sit down and instead of just telling them, hey, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that, I would ask them, hey, well, what do you think we should do? How would you find that answer? And have them actually go through the steps so that way they could build upon that foundation of knowledge, and then wouldn't always have to be relying on somebody to being able to be that person to tell them what to do or when to do it. And that's actually something that's a little bit different. I was in the Air Force. The Army's a lot more, we're going to tell you to do this is when you're going to do it, this is when you do that. The Air Force, they teach us to be a little bit more independent and be able to work things out on our own. So I try to emulate and express that ability where you can absolutely come to me and I'm available for you anytime you need. However, I would like you to be able to work through the problem, and the next time you'd be able to meet that challenge head on.
Okay, same question for Tyler Padilla. How would your peers and colleagues describe your leadership style?
I would have to say that my peers and colleagues would describe my leadership style as more of a trusting style of leadership, as in, I like to pretty much give these guys an example of what they need to do or what they're asking to do and let them run with it. I think with the stuff that I oversee right now is like vehicle fleet and equipment that we're issuing out and everything. And for the vehicles, really the only thing that I try to manage with the vehicles for these guys is getting their vehicle mileage. Everything else, I trust in them that they're going to take care of the vehicles, take care of the maintenance that they need done with it. All they do is let me know what needs done and get it done. As far as like when it comes to casework and stuff, I kind of, I guess, with Ryan and I being in the same office, we feed off each other in the way that we do that, giving examples of things that we've done in the past, or having how Ryan said X, Y, and Z, and having them come back with what they accomplished from what we've given them. If they come back and have more questions, then examples can start becoming, I guess, more precise as to what they can look for and what else they need to get exactly what they want accomplished.
Okay, our next question is this, and the order will be 3-2-1 this time, so you're back up. And as Toole County Sheriff, a critical portion of the position includes developing a budget and working to save taxpayer money while providing for the department's needs as well. What is your experience with governmental accounting and budgeting? Tyler?
Well, that's a tough one. I guess I don't have much experience with governmental budgeting. I would say that some of the things that I've looked into for providing training for the deputies that we currently have is obviously free training is good training. We have a lot of programs that we've tried to get into that we work with other agencies. Examples would be like Stop the Bleed program, and I guess an example that I've personally used is the task force position. With the task force position being a, I guess, sworn member with the FBI, they provide a lot of funding and resources that we can use through their budget that doesn't come out of Toole County budgeting or taxpayer dollars. And then mostly trying to get worked into the process of working grants and stuff, but haven't been able to, I guess, write my own grant with everything, but learning the process of grant writing and using those resources through the Montana Board of Crime Control so that we can be awarded money for accessories or trainings that we would need.
Okay, John Johnson.
So I guess I'm a little bit in that same kind of position that Chief Deputy Padilla is, that as far as we're experiencing within Toole County, that as the jail commander, I've asked a couple of times about, hey, what's the budget? How do we work with that? And I've had just a little bit of hey, well, that there is the budget for it, and a little bit of experience with getting told what we're budgeting for the jail. However, I would rely more so on the experiences of others that I know that I happen to work with. Our office our administrative assistant, who deals with the budgets quite frequently. And I would more lean on her experience as far as for what we've done in the past. Also, just like some of these other guys have said, I'm not opposed to asking questions that I don't know. Thankfully, Donna's not going that far, and I can always give her a call and say, hey, Donna, what was it that you would do in the past? How did you account for this? How did you account for that? Being that she's done it for 20 years, I think she'd be able to give me a good grasp to be able to put me on the right path for getting that budget balance and being able to approach the county commissioners and city council and different places to go and be getting those things.
Okay, question.
Well, for 6 years as the undersheriff, I've worked with Donna quite often on the budget here. It's usually she throws the numbers at me and says, what do you think? And you have to kind of look ahead and see what trends are. You know, we've talked a lot about gas nowadays. You put in for X and you know it's going to be way higher. So sometimes you have to go up a couple percentages higher here and maybe take that money away from this section or that section. So I've at least got to look at it yearly and talk to Donna about what I think, put my 2 cents in with it. When it comes to grant writing, I've written a lot of grants. Right now, we're doing 2 big ones in the jail, putting in new cameras and some new equipment. I've written those, I administer those. I have to fill out the stuff with the state to make sure that we've turned it in quarterly and the reimbursement's done. So I have a little bit of experience with that. Most people have probably heard about the Stone Garden grant. I have written that going all the way back to when Mike Lamey was the undersheriff. He showed me how to do it. So I've taken at least the writing part on. The administrative part still lies with Tiffany, our admin assistant, but I have an understanding of how it works, what we're looking for, why we put in for what we put in for, and how to put the numbers in to make sure that you have enough money to pay the bills at the end of the thing. You know, how much we need for gas, what we should put in for equipment, what we should put in for personal services, how that all works and how it all goes together. Sat down with Border Patrol to figure out what they're going to say yes to, what they're going to say no to, and then make it work in the parameters that they give us. You know, we usually ask for a bunch of money and they give us a quarter of that. And then you have to take that and make sure that you have your personal service and your equipment covered with the money that they give you.
Thank you. So the order for our next question will be 132. All right. Montana state law states that once residency is established, a person has 60 days to properly register their vehicle. As Toole County grows and new residents settle in this area, how would you address this topic to ensure tax revenue is being collected by Toole County?
All right, so I actually answered this question at City Council a couple months ago. One of the city councilmen asked me about it. He said he saw a lot of different out-of-state plates. I think it's a fine line. You want people to come here to get established, but you still want to make that tax base. So you can start with just talking with them, saying, hey, here's what the rules are, here's what the laws are. We appreciate you being here, because you want to get them ingrained in the community. The last thing you want to do is just be hard on it and chase people out. I think some of that happened when the prison first came in, and a lot of those people ended up in Conrad or Cut Bank instead of here at Shelby. So you have to walk that fine line between, hey, this is the law, and this is what you're doing, and how do we fix that? I think a lot of that is just how small town law enforcement goes. I don't think a lot of times being hard on every law is the best situation. I can tell you numerous times in my life, I was stopped coming out of the school by Pat Kelliger, and he said, have your dad call me. And that was way worse than getting a ticket, because I was terrified to go home and tell my dad that. So I think we should still carry some of that small town law enforcement, that we know each other, we know each other's parents, who's going to take care of that I don't have to. And a lot of times writing the ticket to the kid or whatnot affects the parents more than it affects the kid, because the parents are the ones that paid the insurance and everything like that. So you really have to be careful how far you push these things. Yes, we want to make sure we get our tax money, but is it really worth it if we chase them outside of town?
Any questions for Tyler Padilla? You want me to repeat the question? Montana state law says that once residency is established, a person has 60 days to properly register their vehicle. As Toole County grows and new residences settle in our area, how would you address this topic to ensure that tax revenues are being collected for Toole County?
Okay, so I guess addressing this topic, I mean, I'll definitely have to agree with Ryan with the small town idea of policing. It's definitely one of those things that they're already involved in our community. They're providing funding for our community in numerous other ways, whether it's through small businesses, restaurants, depending what kind of job that they're actually doing here. And I believe in that sometimes, especially with the way the courthouse has been going with all the COVID stuff we have going on, it's hard to get in there, get an appointment scheduled to get your registration updated or something within the treasurer's office. Giving at least that first chance of a warning, and with our system that we have, that most law enforcement agencies have record system, we can track who's been warned, how many times they've been warned. If you have that offender that has that warning and then 6 months later they get stopped for the same reasoning or something, maybe they do need that citation that says, hey, this is for not updating your registration or operating with foreign registration from another state or something like that. And that might convince them more to actually come in and get their registration updated. And I think that goes with registration as well as driver's license and all of the residency stuff that we have to change once you're relocated.
All right, well, I guess I don't really have a whole bunch to say because I agree with both my other candidates on their answer. I've actually pulled people over for this before, and I agree. I think that when we're making contact with these people, you know what? A lot of these people come from different states, and when they get their car registered, it's good for a year or sometimes 2 years. And when they come here, they don't know that they have only 60 days to get that Montana registration completed. And so I think having that kind of communication and having positive outcomes, because nobody's getting a ticket, is always a good thing to have. It builds the relationship with the new people that are coming into our community, where these people are now making this their home and buying houses and making Shelby and Toole County their area that they want to live. I think it's far more important than the fee that we would be getting while their registration is expiring from their previous state. I absolutely believe that we need to get the taxes that are owed to the government for the things that the government provides, for the roads, for everything else they all gets tied into all those things. I absolutely support that. But I think moving to a new area, trying to get established, there's a lot of expenses that all start coming with that and trying to get established into the town.
And believe it or not, we're already down to our final question here tonight. And the question being this, it'll be 2, 3, 1 this time in the order. What are your plans, if any, to update the jail facility specifically for female detainees?
Can I steal Ryan's 2 minutes from earlier? So being the jail commander, that we're continually looking at what the Montana has, they have Montana jail standards. I've been to a number of different jail commander conferences, and it is something that I've been told and have seen that we have budgeted for expanding our jail. A part of that is to make sure that we have the staff to be able to safely care for not only the inmates that we're bringing in, but also for the staff that we have that's going to be employed at the sheriff's office. So there's a fine balance with that. I think as Toole County grows, that we'll be able to fill some more detention officer positions, be able to make sure that it's a safe place to work. And at that point, then we'd be able to actually build on to the jail itself. To not only update some of the things that we currently have, but also to be able to create a safe area for females to be housed. Until then, it's kind of a balancing act of what's going to be best for not only the inmate, also for the taxpayers of Toole County, and also for the sheriff's office itself. So it's kind of working in between all of those things while we're still following the law and working within the Montana jail standards.
So I'll pretty much keep this answer pretty simple and brief. I've talked to the current Sheriff Witt, about the budget that we have for the jail facility, and had questions about how we could update it and when we plan to update it. And her answer was, when someone new takes over, I will let them decide that. If elected as sheriff, that's something that wouldn't be a sole decision based on just myself. That's something that I would meet with the jail commander and the undersheriff and discuss with them on what we need to do. As Josh has kind of explained, he goes to these conferences, he has knowledge of what the standards require and what the state requires. So being able to meet with them and talk to them as well as the architect that we'd have involved with it and figure out a plan we could do to either build onto our facility or remodel basically what we have in order to build the proper cells for a male housing side and a female housing side. So I think just the main answer of it would be meeting with staff and getting a full understanding of what we needed to do to get it done.
So I've actually been a part of this a couple times. I think we've started the remodel 2 or 3 times, had architects in and looked at it. So money hasn't been the issue. The county's been putting money into a fund to do this. The issue has been manpower, just because we want to be safe. Right now we have 3 detention officers, only 2 are actually working. I think if you start expanding, you need to make sure you expand your detention staff because you don't want to put anybody in a situation where they can get hurt or the county in a situation that they get sued by not having the proper protection and people checking in on somebody. You know, it takes something as simple as we found out not long ago, 5 minutes went from an inmate being happy to an inmate trying to hang himself. So if you're not having guys back there, you're running the risk of paying $1 million lawsuit for $100,000 jail. I have talked to the commissioners about it, been part of those conversations. We've had, like I said, we've had architects in, but for me, the big thing comes manpower. I'm not going to put my guys in any position to get hurt, be back there where they're going to deal with 20, 30 inmates by themselves. I just think that that's too dangerous, and I would rather have my guys go home safe and not pay $55 to send somebody to a different facility. I mean, you're not going to change me on that too much. I think our manpower and our guys are our most important resource, and putting them in a position to lose or be in a bad way is just not a good thing. So I would rather spend the $55 to send them to Conrad or Fort Benton. Maybe you could work a different deal that way. But once the manpower got set, it was definitely something that would be on the top of the list to do.
And that's it. It starts and it's over. It's went quickly here tonight. So again, we thank each of our candidates for their interest in the position of Toole County Sheriff. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we do hope that it's been an informative and interesting evening for you. And we all learned a little more about our candidates, their views, and what they might bring to the job. Give our candidates another round of applause. Thanks, guys. I put a personal plug in each one of the candidates. The only one I haven't spoken with Tyler, I'm sure he'll agree, will have on the radio with an an individual interview in the very near future. So be listening for that as well. Thank you again. We hope you will join us in the lobby. Lots of refreshments out there. Big thanks to the Shelby Chamber of Commerce and Ashley, who's done a great job putting it together. And with the refreshments and the chance to visit with the candidates in a one-on-one situation out there. Thank you.